So in this video, we're going to go through the signs of depression in men and what you should look for. First off, it's important to remember that signs of clinical depression can differ from men and women. If you didn't already know, clinical depression is more than just a feeling of feeling down for a day. It's not the same feeling you get when it's been cloudy for a few days, non-stop rain, you feel glum, maybe a little down. It's not feeling slightly irritable or struggling to sleep either. Depression impairs you from living your day-to-day life. I can agree with that. It sucks. And it puts up a lot of roadblocks, you build a lot of walls, and it takes time to break down the walls you put up when you're depressed and isolating yourself. It's important to remember that it's also not a choice or something you can snap out of right away. It's a struggle that many people face, whether they like to admit it or not. And there's many treatment options out there for clinical depression. Many of us suffer from mental health challenges, but we never get diagnosed either because we're too scared, or we don't want to deal with the judgment, or you think that you can heal on your own. But that's not the case. You should always go and talk to a doctor or a counselor or a psychiatrist when you're feeling these things. And if you want a little bit more depth about this, we're going to go into it in this video. I'll also leave a card right here about the difference between sadness and depression that you guys can go and check out, and you can see the signs that differentiate the two. One last thing before we get started, it's also very important to remember that the symptoms and signs of depression in men can differ from the symptoms and signs of depression in women. Now, without any further ado, let's get started, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, I'd like to express that if you recognize these symptoms in your life, please go and seek professional help. It'll help you on your path to recovery. You'll get treatment, you'll get medication most likely. You'll have someone to talk to, someone who can help you get better. And you don't need to suffer silently. Remember, it's okay to not be okay, and you're not alone. There are many effective treatment options out there to help you, including the therapists at BetterHelp.com. They're a pretty good website to go to for your online counseling, and they're accredited. They can help you with what you need to know. But if you don't want to try the online thing, you can always go see a therapist in person, even though it might be a little pricey depending on where you are. But it's better that you get the help you need instead of silently suffering. The first sign is change in sleep habits. I can vouch for this one. My sleep habits have been all topsy-turvy for years now. And this symptom of depression can go in two different directions. The first one is either sleeping too much, and the second one, if you haven't guessed it, is sleeping too little. When depression sets in, some of us guys, we shut down, we go to sleep. It's hard to motivate ourselves to get out of bed or even to wake up. They can easily sleep for 12 hours or more each night. This can also have a big impact on their productivity levels throughout the day. But when feeling depressed, they usually don't care, which is true. I can relate to that too. After a while, you just don't care anymore. You just go on with life and hope it gets better, or you start to dig yourself into this rut that you can't get out of. The other one, as I said before, sleeping too little, also known as insomnia. When men are suffering from depression, it can be difficult to shut their brain off in order to go to sleep at night. This means they stay awake, tossing and turning all throughout the night without getting proper sleep. This can be pretty bad and pretty dangerous depending on how long it goes on for. It can also be difficult to start feeling better. Physical health and mental health are closely related. I can vouch for this too. With insomnia, if it gets out of control, your body's not getting the proper rest you need, and eventually you'll start to feel the fatigue on your body. And that brings us into the next point, which is fatigue. Even if sleep habits haven't changed, men may experience feelings of fatigue. They struggle to have the energy to make it throughout the day, do their daily tasks. Quick pick-me-ups like coffee or energy drinks make little, if any, difference. Really, it'll start tasting like water after a while. I know from experience. Men may feel fatigued physically, mentally, and emotionally. They don't feel like they have the energy they need to go on throughout the day. And that brings on loss of interest. If you're a man struggling with depression, it's easy to lose interest in the things you like. If you like to go running, driving, photography, maybe even work, you just lose your interest, right? Because you're just fatigued, you're tired, you don't want to deal with anything, you just want to be isolated and be to yourself, right? There are no boundaries to this loss of interest. Loss of interest in work may lead to difficulties providing for yourself and your family. It's difficult to keep a job without the mental and physical energy that you need to maintain a consistent workflow and work performance. That's true too. And again, if you're suffering from depression, it's wise to speak to your HR department about the situation so they are aware. HR, sometimes they can help, sometimes they can't. It depends on where you work. If you work at hotels, normally they have like a health and wellness HR manager. Like I know I had some in a few hotels I worked at that can help you with that kind of thing. Maybe they can refer you to. Sometimes the workplaces have on-site nurses you might be able to talk to. And it's important to make sure that you let someone know in your workplace how you're feeling, just in case, God forbid, you go over the edge. Ultimately, this can impact your relationships as well, because if you're losing interest in your hobbies, stuff you like to do, maybe spending time with your family, it can be kind of self-destructive. Even men who are involved with their family and friends can lose interest. It's important to remember that. They lose interest in spending time together when dealing with depression. And because of this, you're feeling like you're letting them down, and it might bring an onset of anger. Which brings us into our next point, which is irritability and anger. When people think of depression, they think of being sad. However, in men, depression often disguises itself as anger and irritability. It is important to understand that irritability and anger are two different things. When you're irritable, you're cranky. You may likely feel like you're on the edge, and it feels like everyone is trying to push your buttons throughout the day. You notice all the imperfections around you, and everything people are doing that they shouldn't be are consistently agitating you without any real explanation. Yep, words to live by. That's pretty much me in a nutshell. Anger is a much stronger emotion than irritability. When men are dealing with depression, they know that something is not right. Even if they cannot pinpoint the cause, the more they struggle for unknown reasons, it is likely that anger will continue to amplify. Sometimes the anger is constant, while other times it erupts periodically. This can cause significant damage to relationships as the focus becomes the anger and not the depression. Basically, you explode like a volcano if it's not treated properly. You have difficulty concentrating. This one too I can relate to, especially because I make clothes and I do crafts and stuff. With depression, especially when it's bad, I just can't concentrate or focus in doing those kind of things. It's a wonder I can concentrate enough to do videos like this, because my depression has been pretty bad for like the last 2 years now. Anyways, brain fog is another way to describe difficulty concentrating due to depression. Men become more forgetful and struggle to remember things. Maintaining focus on the task at hand becomes increasingly difficult. Situations that would normally be easy to them might be more confusing. You may grow even frustrated, agitated, irritable, just like think you're going to lose control and just like snap. Because you have to work harder to accomplish things that normally would be a breeze for you to work through before. Physical pain and digestive issues. This one too is something to live by. I don't eat a lot because of the digestive issues. I try and eat and I get sick. The physical pain kind of ties in with your with panic attacks and anxiety too. It's like a pot that keeps stirring, right? There's no denying that mental health is closely tied to your physical health. But what most men don't realize is that physical symptoms can be one sign of depression. This includes symptoms such as back pain, headaches, stomach aches. Depression takes a physical toll on the body. It does. And it can get pretty bad too. Depressive symptoms like stress, anxiety, and guilt can wreak havoc on the digestive system. Other symptoms of depression can also cause these symptoms. Without sufficient sleep, fatigue may lead to headaches. And the headache thing, I can say, don't underestimate the power of a headache and how destructive it can be. My headaches get so bad that sometimes I can't walk, sometimes I can't see, sometimes I can't even feel anything from the neck down. It's just numbing, stabbing pain, or I just can't move anything. As depression can affect thinking and judgment, poor diet choices may also lead to digestive system issues. You may try to treat the physical symptoms without getting to the root of mental health challenges that you're facing. And what I just mentioned a few seconds ago, anxiety. Well, women are more likely to suffer from increased anxiety along with their depression. Men often have an easier time discussing their anxiety compared to discussing feelings of sadness or hopefulness. When facing hard times in life, like the loss of a loved one or the loss of a job you really liked, men can often communicate how this worries them. Naturally, I guess we're more stressed because we feel like we failed because we've lost that job we wanted, or maybe we feel like we let that person die. I'm not sure, but I think that's kind of what they're trying to say. They may not be able to communicate their feelings as much, but when they take concrete situations, they can express that they are anxious and worried about them. Intimacy problems. This is a symptom that most men do not want to talk about or admit because they're embarrassed, but it's also a potential symptom of depression. There is some antidepressants out there that will totally kill your sex drive, straight up. I talked to my psychiatrist about this last year, so it's always good to read side effects, especially if this is something that you enjoy, I guess. When suffering from depression, men may experience lack of sexual desire. This often goes unreported because men feel ashamed when they are experiencing erectile dysfunction. This can become a vicious cycle, and sexual dysfunction often leads men to feel more depressed, further reducing their sexual desires. As embarrassing as you might think it will be to discuss this with a doctor, it's a pretty common symptom of depression in men, and you should discuss this with your doctor. It's helpful for your doctor or therapist to know all of the symptoms you're experiencing to help you get the appropriate treatment that you need. Indecisiveness. Yeah, I can relate to this one too pretty hard. Indecisiveness tends to go along with some other symptoms that we have described here. It is hard to make decisions when you're struggling to concentrate or have an overall lack of interest in the topic. Indecisiveness is a minor issue when it comes to things like trying to decide what movie to watch, what to eat, what you're going to do tomorrow, when you're going to sleep, and is a much larger problem when it comes down to things like not paying your bills on time because you couldn't decide when was the right time to spend the money that you had from your paycheck, or allocating the money where it needs to go. A lack of desire and care mixed with indecisiveness can cause problems to snowball, further exacerbating feelings of agitation and hopefulness. Suicidal ideation. If you or your loved one is having any thoughts of suicidal ideation, you need to seek professional help immediately. I've expressed this a lot in a few of my other videos, but getting that help you need is very important. Talk to a doctor, talk to a psychiatrist, talk to a loved one, talk to a counselor. If need be, just go straight to the emergency room from the time you start feeling these thoughts, because you don't want it to go out of control. You don't want to snap. You don't want to come off the edge, because it can get really bad for you and your loved ones or anyone you've been involved with at the time that you decide to act out on your ideations. This includes thinking things like my family would be better off without me, or no one would even notice if I was gone. If this is a symptom that you're experiencing, speak with someone right away. There are many treatment options to help you effectively deal with depression. You don't need to continue to suffer in silence. If you recognize any of these symptoms of depression in yourself or someone you love, then it's time to seek treatment. There are many options that professional therapists can provide to help you get your symptoms under control and start enjoying your life better. But they can't help you if you don't reach out and get the help yourself, or if a loved one doesn't help you make that step. Take the first step today and contact a mental health professional or your doctor and tell them how you're feeling and ask them for an appointment so you can find out ways that you can get treatments and what you can do to lessen the depression and the toll on your body. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I thank you guys for tuning in again. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Remember to like and share the video. Thank you guys again for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one.